Montesquieu and the Theory of Separation of Powers. Introduction: Power and the Problem of Liberty. Montesquieu stands as one of the most influential architects of modern constitutional government. Writing in the 18th century, Montesquieu confronted a perennial political problem. How can political power exist without destroying liberty? His answer fundamentally reshaped modern political design. Power must be divided in order to be restrained. Montesquieu's enduring contribution lies in his articulation of the theory of separation of powers, most fully developed in the Spirit of the Laws, 1748. This theory became a cornerstone of liberal constitutionalism and exerted direct influence on the framers of the United States Constitution. Liberty is security from abuse of power. Montesquieu defined political liberty not as the ability to do whatever one wishes, but as security from arbitrary power. Liberty exists when citizens are not subject to the unchecked will of rulers. From this premise, he drew a critical conclusion: concentrated power is inherently dangerous. His most famous formulation captures this insight: power ought to check power. For Montesquieu, the abuse of power is not an accident of bad character. It is a structural tendency. Even well-intentioned rulers will overreach if no institutional barriers exist. Therefore, liberty cannot depend on virtue alone. It must be built into the structure of government itself. The three powers of government. Montesquieu identified three distinct functions of political authority: legislative power, the authority to make laws; executive power, the authority to enforce laws and conduct foreign affairs; judicial power, the authority to interpret laws and adjudicate disputes. He argued that liberty is endangered when any two of these powers are combined in the same hands, and destroyed entirely when all three are unified. If legislative and executive power are combined, rulers may enact tyrannical laws and enforce them oppressively. If judicial power is merged with legislative or executive power, citizens are subject to arbitrary judgment rather than impartial law. Thus, separation is not about efficiency, but about freedom, institutional independence, and mutual constraint. Montesquieu did not argue merely for functional differentiation, but for institutional independence. Each branch must possess sufficient autonomy and authority to resist encroachment by the others. This logic anticipates what later constitutional systems call checks and balances. Separation without mutual constraint would be ineffective. Cooperation without separation would be dangerous. Liberty is preserved when institutions compete within defined limits. Importantly, Montesquieu derived this insight empirically, drawing on his analysis of the English constitutional system rather than abstract speculation. He believed that constitutional design must reflect political reality, not idealized reason alone. Influence on liberal constitutionalism. Montesquieu's ideas profoundly shaped liberal political systems, most notably the United States Constitution. American framers adopted separation of powers precisely because they shared Montesquieu's skepticism toward concentrated authority. In this sense, Montesquieu stands as a bridge between Enlightenment theory and modern constitutional practice. His work demonstrates a central liberal insight: freedom requires structure. Conclusion: Montesquieu advanced the theory of separation of powers as a practical solution to the enduring problem of political power. By dividing authority and ensuring institutional restraint, he provided a framework through which liberty could be preserved not by goodwill but by design. His influence endures wherever constitutional limits on power remain central to political life.